Welcome to a special Halloween version of There Will Be Expletives. I'm Geoff.
I am Ron.
And we're doing something a little bit different today. We are going to try out a little top 5 list special. And obviously, we are doing our top 5 horror films.
Yes.
And first of all, we need to kind of preface this with, what would you say is our clarification of a horror film? It has to have horror elements.
Yes.
Doesn't have to be like a Freddy Krueger only type thing.
Yeah,
like,
it doesn't have to be just straight up horror. As long as it's horror movie elements and it scares the piss out of you.
So, we are going to be going backwards from 5 to 1 and alternating. So would you like to go first, Ron?
Sure.
Actually, I have a couple of honorable mentions. Do you have any honorable mentions?
Actually, I didn't come up with any honorable mentions.
Okay, I'll do my honorable mentions, and then you can start with your 5. How about that?
Okay.
My honorable mentions were, I didn't clarify horror comedies as being horror, because the intent of those movies is not to scare you in any way.
Yeah.
So my honorable mentions were actually my 3 favorite horror comedies.
Okay.
So my number 3 was Evil Dead 2.
Never seen it.
Yeah, you have. You've seen Evil Dead 2. Remember? Well, that's the one where it cuts off his hand.
I saw 2, I didn't see the first one.
Yeah, you haven't seen the first one.
Okay.
Fucking love me some Evil Dead 2.
Yeah, that was good.
Bruce Campbell, love him to death. Yeah.
Claymation skeleton dancing in the woods.
If you haven't seen Evil Dead and Evil Dead 2 and Army of Darkness, you still need to watch Army of Darkness 2, because Army of Darkness is like 2. It's more comedy-centric than horror. Like, the first one's a straight-up horror movie. Since you
cannot wait for that show.
So good.
I need to find a way to watch it.
So good. My number 2 honorable mention on the horror comedies was Zombieland.
Yes.
Which you just recently saw. Was it this year you saw it for the first time?
Yes, and then I bought.
I adore Zombieland. If you haven't watched that, definitely check it out. Great group movie too. If you're gathering with friends to watch, some horror stuff for Halloween.
Actually, I did think of an honorable mention.
Okay.
Just off the top of my head.
Why don't you go ahead and do yours, and I'll do my number 1.
One that I just talked to you about recently, actually. Stakeland.
Okay, what was that? I don't remember.
It's a post-apocalyptic, kind of like all your post-apocalyptic zombie movies, but it's a vampire movie.
Oh, yeah, okay, yeah, this is starting to ring a bell now.
Yeah, basically a vampire hunter takes a, it's kind of like the premise of Zombieland in the main vampire hunter takes a kid that was surviving kind of like Eisenberg and trains him and teaches him how to be a vampire slayer, but it's like Walking Dead style post-apocalyptic.
Okay, yeah, I'd be all over that.
And it's a serious movie. It's got some scary elements to it, but to me, it's still an honorable mention because it has a lot more action movie elements to it than horror, but there's still 1 or 2 parts that, even if you know it's coming, it's going to get you.
I want to watch it.
It's on Netflix, I believe.
Stakeland, you said?
Stakeland, yes.
All right, and my number 1 horror comedy, Shaun of the Dead.
Yes.
I could watch Shaun of the Dead. Like, that's okay. You have those films.
I can watch that all day on loop.
When you get that question, you're like, if you're on an island, you got to pick one movie. That's up there. It might be like the one movie, because I have seen that movie so many damn times. But every time,
you just be on the island waiting for it to blow over anyway.
Yeah, it's one of those where like every time you laugh at that same joke, it doesn't matter. It's just brilliant comedy gold. So now we're actually into the horror section, and we're going to start off with Ron's number 5.
My number 5 is kind of an odd pull. It's probably going to be the odd one out of all 10 movies we list tonight. Just in the fact that it wasn't a AAA title. It wasn't an independent. It was just a B movie. But it's actually got, I think, one of your top 10 or 15 actors in it.
Okay.
But it's a psychological thriller / horror called The Ward.
The Ward?
The Ward.
Okay.
And the dude I'm referring to that's in it is the psychiatrist guy that's over the ward. And
so it's a fairly recent?
Yeah. Jared Harris.
Oh, I love Jared Harris, yeah.
Yes.
So it's like creepy role for him?
No, he's the, like I said, he's the guy that runs the psychiatric ward.
Okay.
trying to help all the people that's in it and everything. It has fucking Moaning Myrtle in it also.
Oh, we were just talking about this the other day, weren't we?
Yes, we were. But yeah, no, I don't want, since it is B-movie, I don't want to go into too much depth about it because anyone that's listening probably hasn't seen it, and I recommend checking it out.
Or you don't want to spoil details?
I don't want to spoil any details on it, but I will say that it's not what you think it is, even it being a B-movie.
Okay.
It's a really good movie, and it has some really creepy shit going on in it.
You had me at Jared Harris, and I like.
For those that don't know Jared Harris, it was Moriarty in A Game of Shadows.
Yeah, the second Robert Downey Sherlock. Yes. So definitely go check that out. You said it was on Netflix?
It was. Let me double check real quick that it's still on there. That's where I saw it the first time I ever watched it.
I also love it's set in a mental ward. That's always a creepy setting to me. Like when you watch those like ghost shows and they're in an abandoned mental ward, those will freak me out. So
yeah, it's basically like a patient had died.
Okay.
In this mental ward. That's all I'm going to say. But yeah, it's good. Jared Harris is really good in it.
So is there anyone else other than... it looks like Amber Heard. That's actually Mrs. Johnny Depp. She was in that...
Really?
Yeah, she was in...
She's the main character.
She was in... What the hell was that?
And I'm sorry, Danielle Panabaker. I didn't know her back then.
Oh, from The Flash.
From The Flash. Caitlin from The Flash is in it.
All right.
And, god damn it, YouTube app. Now we'll type the Netflix app.
Oh, yeah.
I just searched YouTube for The Ward.
Yeah, now I need to start searching. I'm trying to figure out. She was actually in a movie with Depp fairly recently.
Yes, it is on Netflix currently.
It is currently on Netflix.
I'm adding it back to my list.
Yeah, I'm going to check this out now.
Director John Carpenter.
Really?
I did not know that.
That must be like one of the most recent ones he's done.
Director John... No, Ghost of Mars. Where's...
Go back up. It's towards the top of IMDb. Yeah, John Carpenter. Hell yeah, dude.
Okay, well there you go.
I'm down. I didn't even realize he was still making films.
Dude, I watched this whole movie beginning to end. I didn't even realize it was John Carpenter.
All right. Did you have anything else you want to add to The Ward, or did you want me to move on to mine?
No, that's about all I can say about it. I said check it out. I really like it. I'm not a huge horror movie buff because they're usually just slashers and just blood and gore. I
echo those same thoughts.
Yeah, I want it to be creepy atmosphere, creepy storytelling, and that's exactly what this movie is. I mean, fucking John Carpenter is all I needed to say. I didn't even know.
And it has good people in the cast too. Yeah. All right, I will go over to my list then, and my number 5 is Zack Snyder's Dawn of the Dead.
Okay,
which.
I considered that being my 5, but I didn't find it. To me, I guess I'm just over the whole zombie thing. They're not really creepy.
Yeah, they're not really creepy, but I think it's actually. I mean, we've gone over in the regular pod multiple times. People like to give Zack Snyder a lot of shit. But with that one, the dude revolutionized zombies.
Yeah.
Like, that introduced the fast-paced zombie.
Yeah.
You know, like, Walking Dead, they don't do full-blown that type of zombie, but it's kind of half and half from shambling to that.
Yeah.
But that was kind of, cause like, think about, in between, like, the old-school Romero stuff in the 70s and early 80s, nothing had been done really with zombies from that point up until Zack Snyder's. And he kind of, like, put it back on the map. Like, I don't really think...
George A. Romero, I think it'd be fair to say, put it at the forefront of people's minds, and then Zack Snyder brought it back.
Yeah, he brought it back.
I'm bringing it back!
Also, James Gunn, famous for Guardians of the Galaxy, was the writer of it. I just found that out, like, yesterday. I had no idea.
That was the shocker to me. I had no idea. Yeah, I own that movie, and I had no idea.
So, I thought that was... I like it a lot. It has some action elements to it. It has a good cast.
And for a remake, it's pretty good.
One of the better remakes. And they brought a whole new twist to zombies by making them, crazy fast. Like old school Romero slow shambling zombies don't work in current pop culture, and they kind of brought them back. And I like the cast. It has Ving Rhames.
I love Ving Rhames.
Yeah, the main guy is one of those Jake Weber, who you've seen him in shit. He's always kind of a side character.
Right.
But yeah, I genuinely like that one quite a bit, and I put it as a top 5 because I don't really think if that doesn't hit and is successful, I don't know if we actually have a Walking Dead show, because that really did bring zombies back to the forefront of horror. When it had been dead for quite a while. So that's all I want to say about that one. So we're back to your 4.
All right. My 4 is probably The Exorcist.
Okay. You cannot go wrong on a horror top list with The Exorcist.
Yeah, that one really... I saw it when I was a kid, so that really horrified me. But even if it doesn't scare you, it's going to creep you out and send shivers up and down your spine.
See, I actually saw it as a kid, but had forgotten the majority of it, and I actually went back last year for Halloween and watched it, kind of for the first time, as an experience of viewing it where you can actually remember it. Came out in, I believe, like mid to late 60s, or maybe early 70s, and it was still genuinely creepy.
Now, what did you think of the version with Stellan Skarsgård?
Was that the prequel they recently did?
Yeah, it looks like The Exorcist: The Beginning.
I haven't seen that one.
That one, I couldn't tell if I wanted to put this one or the original at number 4 on my list because it feels like the first one to me. It's probably not as good storytelling,
but they got the tone.
Oh yeah, they got the tone. And this movie was 2004, so updated graphics and stuff.
Yeah,
it'll mess with you too. I basically had a tie for number 4. I know that's cheating, but same movie
The Exorcist
franchise.
in general, kind of. Yeah, those two.
Well, see, I have I went to private schools, Christian schools, all the way up to 9th grade. So I have a lot of religion in my background. So that really messes with me.
And holy crap, all those special effects dudes back then, that was mind-blowing shit for back then. Like,
well, I mean, look, I'm looking at IMDb on my phone right now, and their banner on the page is just terrifying enough.
Yeah, fantastic costume work. Whoever did, they was actually, her voice would be all digitally affected now.
Yeah.
But it was just a person doing the voice. It's just crazy stuff like that. Like that movie was a work of art.
And dude, I mean, I'm sure I'm going to screw this up, but Max von Sydow.
Yeah, is in episode 7 now. No.
Yes. Yeah, dude. I mean, just everything about that movie was good.
Very, very good. Very, very good.
So, yeah, that's what I've got.
All right, my number 4 is something that I'm not even sure if you've seen, and it might be argued that it's not. It's probably more so along the lines of psychological thriller, like you had mentioned when you prefaced your list. But I think it has some kind of supernatural and horror elements to it, to where I thought it was a good enough movie where I felt I should include it. And that is, have you ever seen the movie Frailty?
No, I have not.
It stars Bill Paxton as the dad. It was the first movie he ever directed, too, so he's the lead and he's directing it. It came out, I believe, in 2002, early 2000s.
I like Paxton.
Bill Paxton plays a father to, I believe he has either 2 or 3 sons, and they live on a farm. Forget which state they're in, but it's very, out in the middle of nowhere, basically. So Bill Paxton is the dad in the movie, and he one of the sons is McConaughey, and I think they have just a random kid actor for the other kid. He basically goes and tells his kid one day, we have a mission right now, a mission from God. Get in the car, get your stuff. You're going to help me on my mission. They go with the dad, and this is all first 15 minutes. This isn't a spoiler. This is basically what you see in the trailer. I won't go into spoilery details. But he gets his kids in his car, and they start killing people. They go around the town, and they start, with their dad, killing people.
Just for the hell of it?
Randomly selected people, and he says, God told me to kill these people, so we are going to go and kill them.
Wow.
And the kids are obviously terrified.
And this was filmed in Oklahoma, I'm sure.
Probably. But it's one of those things to where when you're a little kid, who do you listen to more than your dad?
Right.
So they're kind of torn, do we go for help, because dad's killing people and he's making us accomplices,
Yeah.
And it goes into the kind of psychological, first of all, Bill Paxton's awesome in it. as this just deranged dad just going to town on literally all of the local people. And it's a really good psychological thriller.
You know, when people think of Bill Paxton, they think of Twister, which I'm one of the few that doesn't think his performance was bad in that.
No,
he's an excellent actor.
Yeah, if you like Bill Paxton, you got to check this one out. And I won't say it's not necessarily a twist, but the final act kind of turn they have was one of the first movies I remember being, watching as a kid or as a teenager, like being kind of mind blown by it. Like it was a fantastic ending. So,
Bill Paxton and Bill Pullman both. I don't know what it is about Bill's, but Bill Paxton and Bill Pullman can play very creepy characters very well.
Yeah, so you definitely, if you are a Bill Paxton fan or just like psychological thrillers, check out the movie Frailty. I don't believe it's on Netflix.
Is it like, is he just walking up and shooting people, or is it like gruesome deaths, like Saw level deaths he's giving them or something?
I believe the main weapon he's using is an axe, so he's actually hacking them to death.
Awesome.
Yeah, definitely check out Frailty.
So then it's ironic then to bring up Twister with the Shining in the background of the movie, of a Bill Paxton movie.
Yeah, so that was my number 4.
My number 3 is, I don't know if this one's even on your radar at all, but it's definitely on mine, and I just saw it fairly recently, and that's the original Nightmare on Elm Street.
Okay. Yeah, fantastic movie.
Yeah, I saw it the night of Wes Craven's death being announced. Because I love Wes Craven, and I had always wanted to see that movie, so as my tribute to him, I was like, you know what, that's what, more or less probably what put him on the map, I'm guessing, with how old a movie it is and everything, 1984.
Yeah.
So, I was like, you know what, I want to tell you, it's his most iconic character, if nothing else, Freddy Krueger. So, I really enjoyed that movie, and it still
holds
creepy.
up. It's also the most brilliant horror concept of all time, in my opinion.
Oh, yeah.
Because
you can't run from it.
You can't, because the thing is, like, one of the reasons I never am too, I mean, they're good movies, at least on the Halloween side, not so much the Friday the 13th films, they're just slashers.
Yeah.
But like with Halloween, like it's a good movie, but it doesn't hit you on that like level because, you're going up against Michael Myers, the guy's basically immortal, but if I have an M16, I feel like I got a legitimate shot to at least get away.
Right.
You gotta sleep. You have to sleep. So
sleep.
Freddy Krueger is going to get you regardless. Like, there is no stopping him.
Right.
Which is, that's the ultimate. Because, like, when you're having a nightmare, 9 times out of 10, you can't yell for help and you can't get away.
Yeah.
So it's that kind of innate horror concept of if you can't get away, it makes it so much more terrifying.
It's the ultimate nightmare.
Yeah.
And the other thing about it, too, is, like, it's 1984, and it's like teen horror movie-ish, but the way that they just casually talk about the incredibly dark backstory of Freddy Krueger in that movie, and I don't know, just the thing about that movie and some of the special effects in it are still pretty damn good.
Johnny Depp in the bed is pretty good.
Johnny Depp in the bed is pretty. It's Johnny Depp's first movie, right?
First, he might have been in other stuff, but it was his first where he's anywhere near like the top of the cast's like IMDb page. It's probably like his first notable work.
But I have a lot of respect for that movie, so it made my number 3.
That's Nightmare on Elm Street. I'm not a big horror buff either. And out of the old school, like most popular and famous horror films, Nightmare on Elm Street would be my favorite
and
too.
I'm not a gory movie guy, and it's got a lot of gore in it, but its gore is well used. Like that's a problem I have. Today, horror movie means there needs to be blood splattering everywhere.
At least they're finally getting away from torture porn since Saw ended, but for about 7 or 8 years, it was nothing but torture porn. That was all it was like Saw and Hostel. That was like, that is not horror. Grossing you out with a special effect is not creating tension and mood.
Yeah, that's not horror, but the way that they used gore, like, those were some truly gruesome deaths in that movie.
And creative.
And you do not want to be anywhere near that. That wasn't, dude, it was, even though it was super gory, it was fucking creepy,
And you watched it when it came out, like 80?
It came out, it's a year older than I am.
Yeah,
it came out in 84.
So you're watching it at that point, imagine back then, like, it really would have scared the shit out of you.
Oh yeah,
if you watched it at the time.
So, I have a lot of respect for that movie, and I should have watched it years ago. But
it was a good way to honor Wes Craven.
Yes,
Yeah.
I thought.
Which
so.
is it still on Netflix?
I was gonna say it might have been on the list that I had tweeted.
Yeah, go look for it at least if you are interested and you haven't seen it. It is, if you are any way, shape, or form a fan of horror, it is one of the must-sees in my opinion. You said it came out 84?
Yeah, it came out 84. Nightmare on Elm Street is gone, but they have 2, 3, and New Nightmare.
You can probably find, like, at Walmart, they have, like, all of your marquee horror films.
I'm sure.
You can probably get it for, like, $5, so if you're curious at all.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Alright, well, my number 3, did you have anything else you wanted to add to Nightmare?
No, I think that just about covers it.
Okay, my number 3 it's probably the furthest detached away from being a horror film, but I think it works for me personally, and I'll get more into the backstory of why it's a horror movie for me personally. But I would say it's one of those movies that kind of fits into every genre because it has a little bit of everything, like literally one of those, and that is Jaws.
Okay.
Jaws has a little horror, has a little action, has a little adventure, has a little psychological thriller. It's a little bit of like every genre you can think of.
While I personally probably wouldn't consider it to be horror, I can see why it's on the list.
And one of the reasons, I think some people do consider it horror, because if you haven't ever heard the stories of the 70s when it came out though, people were afraid to go to the beach.
Right.
Like, if it can...
It was a product of its time, for sure.
If it can psychologically affect people like that, I think it does have some horror elements, if it genuinely scared people away from doing something, you know, like...
Yeah, no, I like I said, I can definitely see it being horror. To me, it was more, probably suspense and slash action maybe.
But then again, it has. I mean, it even has.
Probably a stretch.
It's got comedy, action, adventure, psychological thriller, suspense. It's like,
and I'm not putting it down.
Yeah,
it's a fantastic.
Yeah, you
movie.
can. It's one of those where you can make. I mean, it's even got comedic elements to it. It fits almost a little bit into every genre of film. So I thought, since it has, because of its impact back then, and because of the impact it had on me, I saw it for the first time when I was, I think, 5.
Uh-huh.
I am now 23. I'm still petrified of sharks, dude.
I bet you are.
Do you remember
Shark Week was an awful week for you every year?
Do you remember in the Batman Arkham City game when you're in the penguin's lair and you're having to slowly...
Oh, dude.
When you are having to slowly walk across the ice or the giant shark eats you, like that physically makes me nervous. Mostly because I saw Jaws when I was 5. So if it 18 years later is still freaking me out on some level, in my opinion... It's a horror movie for me. So but I'm sure everyone at this point has seen Jaws.
My number 1 is my number 1 for that same reason.
Because it hit you that inertly.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's my number 3.
All right. My number 2 has to be American Werewolf in London.
Okay.
Again, I saw it when I was young, and I love American Werewolf in Paris, but it has so many comedic elements in it and stuff. It's still got some horror parts. It's got a lot of parts of the original, but the update made it a lot more funny, kind of watered down a lot of what was scary about American Werewolf in London.
Which one has the really famous transformation scene, like with the practical effects? Is that the first one?
Yes. In fact, it's the banner on IMDb. But yeah, dude, it's got some terrifying things, and it's the reason why werewolves are my favorite creature.
Was that kind of your first introduction to werewolves?
Yes. It's got one of my favorite people in it too, Griffin Dunn. I think that's how you say his name is Dunne. I know you know who that is just because I showed you Johnny Dangerously recently.
Yeah.
He was his brother. He was the DA. It was, oh God, I love that guy. But yeah, him and David Naughton, which... I was scrolling through his IMDb page while we were talking earlier, and there's not a lot that jumps out at me, but I know his face from things recently too, but I'm just not seeing a whole lot of...
Mostly one-hit wonder for that.
Yeah, basically. Yeah. But yeah, no, dude, that movie, American Werewolf in London, have you seen it?
It's one of those like The Exorcist where I saw it as a kid because my dad has the same opinion you do.
Yeah.
When he first saw that practical effect transformation, like it blew his ever-loving mind.
It's pretty legit, dude. And it, like, Wolfman and everything always made it seem like a painful transformation, but you always kind of like wondered why it would be painful. Watching his legs break and go reverse joint.
And what got me isn't watching it, it's the sounds.
The crunching and the snapping.
Like, I'm cringing just thinking about it.
Oh, dude. Yeah, that movie was 1981, and it still has some of the best practical effects I think I've ever seen.
Could not agree more with that statement.
Dude, this picture is cropped, but it's when he's looking at his hand, watching his hand transform. But no, dude, that movie's got some horrifying elements to it, and to me, it always, like movies like Underworld, like, I could not wait to be a werewolf if that's the way that it was. I don't want to be anywhere near fucking wolves, dogs, nothing after watching American Werewolf in London. It was also one, I don't remember if it's London or Paris or if they both have it, but it's one of the few things too that the way to break the curse isn't silver necessarily. I don't know how spoilery we want to get with everything we're talking about.
I think with that one being as old as it is, I think you're fine.
But the eating the heart of the one that bit you being the cure for the werewolf curse. And not being some flower like Wolf's Bane or something
they
like that.
They made it less of like a kryptonite, like easy out.
Yeah. So, no, I have a lot of respect and love for that movie because that was another one from my childhood.
Since it was one of those where I don't remember all of it really well, I need to go back and rewatch that one.
And
too.
it had funny elements to it and everything too, because the guy from Johnny Dangerously is his friend that he mauls or whatever. He can see the ghost of following him around and talk to. And my favorite line though of that role is actually in American Werewolf in Paris when the girl that's in it can see him. And she just keeps staring at him because of how mangled and everything is and body parts and like organs hanging out. And then he's just like, what are you looking at? Was my spleen hanging out? Like, and he's like looking at himself like, what do you keep staring at me for? But yeah, no, American Werewolf in London, as much as I love American Werewolf in Paris, American Werewolf in London.
Which one is the first one?
London.
Okay, that's what I was saying.
London was 81 and Werewolf in...
Probably like 84, 85.
Let's see, 97.
Really? That was really far after the fact.
Yep. Tom Everett Scott was the lead in that. So yeah, both fantastic movies. I'm not putting down Paris at all, but it captures the spirit of the original, but nothing beats the original one, dude.
All right, my number 2 is Alien.
Really?
And holy shit, we watched this last Halloween as kind of our like get together on Halloween weekend or whatever it was, pretty close to Halloween, and just chill out, get kind of sucked into a horror movie again that you've seen a million times. And holy shit, that movie every time sucks me into. God, I feel claustrophobic watching it.
Yes,
the tension is like my whole thing about horror in general. And why I got so irritated by the almost decade-long torture porn we were subjected to is that horror isn't horror unless I feel tense watching it. Atmosphere, mood, suspense, tension, not a special effect.
Yes. And what is fantastic about Alien also is the fact that there's very few musical cues as to what's about to happen.
It's just you and hearing nothing but the ship creak and then just
creak and clamor, and the musical cue comes after the thing that happens.
There's a scene towards the last like 10 minutes. We both jump.
We know it's coming.
We still freaking
and we've seen
jump.
that movie dozens of times, but yeah, it still got us. Fantastic. I love the original Alien. Now, when we say Alien, we're referring to the original Alien.
The Ridley Scott one.
Yeah, I like all 4, but I would give you that 3 and 4 probably shouldn't even be on the map. Alien 2 is more action than anything.
Yeah, it goes from sci-fi horror to sci-fi action, basically, with that. Yeah.
And then just weird after sci-fi action. It just goes weird and it just goes off the rails. But First one is a fantastic movie.
Yeah, it was Ridley Scott, Sigourney Weaver, Bilbo. I always forget his name. John Hurt. Yeah, great movie. Yeah, that is my number 2.
Ian Holm, I think.
Yeah. All right, so we're back to Ron's number 1.
Alien.
Yeah.
The original Alien. Yeah, your number 2 is my number 1. And reason being, I saw that movie. You know, I've said that these other movies scared me when I was a kid. You have no idea how young I was. I wanted to watch that movie so bad. We had just moved into the house my parents are in now, so I must have been 10 or 11. And I still wasn't allowed to watch anything super scary yet. And my parents finally went to bed. And I snuck out into the living room and watched Alien.
And you were traumatized for life.
And it was basically the first thing I was ever exposed to.
How old were you?
Probably 10 or 11. Because I think we moved up here in 95, so I was born in 85. So
Ridley Scott melted your 11-year-old brain.
Yes. And Alien movies for me were, at that time, or like E.T., or like, which was the same for the world when that movie came out. You know, Alien movies were nothing like that. People went to see the movie Alien not knowing exactly what they were signing up for. Close Encounters of the Fourth Kind.
One of the best taglines was on their poster is, "In space, no one can hear you scream."
Yes.
Yeah.
And I shit my pants, cleaned myself up, and shit my pants again. Like, that movie traumatized. I did not sleep. That was my first all-nighter. I did not sleep that night. It was a brand new house, right? My parents had it built. We lived in an apartment while they had a contractor build it. So it was brand new and it was solid, which means anytime the wind blows or whatever, you hear a creaking and a popping from the wood in the walls, because it was just super tight still. So every little noise fucking freaked me out. I've never been so scared in my life. And it was because of Ridley Scott's Alien. And I still get a little bit of that in the back of my mind again every time I watch that movie.
Yeah, since we watched it just last year, and it didn't, at this point we're old enough, it doesn't...
You would flinch, but I almost came off the couch a couple of times on the ones that got me, and I know it's coming.
And and
that's why.
It
takes me back to my primal fear of when I was a child.
And I didn't have the same nostalgic reaction to it. It's just genuinely so well done, so well paced, and unnerving as fuck. It doesn't scare me to death, but the tension is just so suspenseful and unnerving.
And it's the reason today why I can't necessarily enjoy horror movies. There's very few horror movies that I can enjoy because, again, it sets a tone, it sets an atmosphere. Everything that we said before, and every horror movie gives away, at least to me, I have friends and stuff that watch a horror movie, and even though there's musical cues, it still gets them. And I'm the only one that doesn't move or make a sound when it happens, because Alien was my first horror movie, and there's no musical cues in it. And that is just engraved into my mind that I didn't know what was going to happen, and that was the thing that terrified me the most in that movie. I had no idea.
Yeah, it really added to the whole theme of you're in space.
Yeah,
you can't go anywhere. You don't have anyone to help you. It's you.
I really thought you were going to say no one can hear you scream.
It's you, the ship, and the thing coming to kill you.
Yeah,
and good luck.
I watch a horror movie, and I'll start hearing the music. I'm like, well, here comes the jump scare. Yep, there it was. It killed horror movies for me.
Yeah, Ridley Scott definitely. I mean, he's fucking Ridley Scott, but
which is why I had trouble making 5 for a top 5.
The most versatile at going from genre to genre, probably Ridley Scott. Just what a great movie.
So yeah, I knew Alien was gonna be in your list somewhere. I was curious.
I assumed it would be your number 1.
Yeah, so. You assumed correctly, sir.
Yeah. All right, now we are on to Jeff's number 1, and that is John Carpenter's The Thing.
I knew that was coming.
That is. The John Carpenter's The Thing combines all of the shit that I love about horror that we've been talking about. Practical effects, mood, suspense, tension, all wrapped into freaking Kurt Russell being a badass. You got that thrown in there too. And as you can see from my top 2, sci-fi horror is my favorite of the horror genres.
Yes.
I love sci-fi horror. And it's one we've been actually talking about watching for this Halloween since you don't remember it very well. But holy shit, the whole concept of the thing being anyone you know because it can replicate,
right,
is intense. Like, I don't know if you remember it, but the scene when they figure out how to figure out which is the thing, and Kurt Russell has everyone tied to a chair, and they're going person by person. Holy hell, one of the most intense scenes of just any movie I've ever seen.
Yeah, that rings some bells, but again, it's been so long.
Yeah, since you're in for a treat if it's going to be your first, basically, fresh experience of it, because it is a fan-freaking-tastic movie. This is one of those where it's my number one favorite horror-related movie, but it's in my top 10 just movies in general. I adore John Carpenter's The Thing, and it's another one. For whatever reason, it was a pain in the ass for me to find, but if you can find a copy of it, just buy it, because it is just a great movie just in general.
I don't remember much of it at all, but I'm going to say buy it too.
Like you were saying, The Thing, their practical effects, and the American Werewolf in London one, those are probably the two most famous practical effect usages of just, you can think of in film. It's just, I can't wait till you get to watch it basically for the first time again, because I think it's part of it is just mind-blowing what they were able to do. And it was like 1982.
I remember it being mind-blowing the first time.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it was one that, for whatever reason, it was never on TV much. It was never...
Yeah, it was like I was saying, it was actually, for some reason...
It's hard to get your hands on it. I remember... it might be on Halloween, it might not. It's just weird. It's like they made the movie, they played it, and they're done with it, and you never see it again.
Maybe because
they remake it about every 3-4 years.
Maybe it just has more of a stigma of being straight up sci-fi, so people don't associate it with Halloween. But it's sci-fi horror, in my opinion.
It's a horrifying movie. I remember that. I can't remember. I couldn't tell you why. It's been so long since I've seen it.
You'll be able to tell in a couple of weeks once we get around to getting to watch it.
Yeah.
But John Carpenter's The Thing.
I'll probably have to revise this list after I see it.
Is my number one.
So, not a bad pick.
Yeah, I knew, I had a feeling yours was going to be Alien. You had a feeling mine was going to be The Thing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, just as you and I have been talking about those two movies ever since we decided to do the Halloween cast.
Those are probably the only ones we legitimately guessed on each other's list, though. I didn't guess any. Nightmare on Elm Street I thought might make it because it was fresh in your mind.
I figured Exorcist might be in your list.
Exorcist?
Would it be like number 6 or 7?
Yeah, it's top 10, just mostly out of respect for it and just how good it is. But, this is a top 5. A lot of it is, just me personally. I have a backstory for Jaws, and I have a backstory for like Dawn of the Dead and Frailty, and I will
never forget every detail of my first viewing of Alien.
Exactly, yeah. And horror is a very personal genre because what works for you doesn't necessarily work for me, and vice versa.
Right.
So it's a very personalized genre. Yeah.
Right, but anything you notice my list, anything that was in my list, including The Ward, doesn't have musical cues. That's the one thing that really peeves me about horror movies because they give it away before it happens. What's the point? There's no musical cues. They all set a very creepy tone, very creepy atmosphere, and genuinely, you have no idea what the fuck is going to happen, and that's the thing that scares me more than anything.
Feeling helpless.
The helplessness feeling, because every situation of every day of your life, you have some semblance of control, even if you don't,
Yeah.
But for me, that's what does it in horror movies for me. If you think about my list at all, you have no idea what the hell can happen in any of them. Yeah. So what is it that's the big thing for you? What's your biggest pet peeve? Mine's musical cues and
my biggest pet peeve is using special effects as a cop-out, basically, to having to set mood and tension.
I'll give you that. Because,
holy shit, when Saw hit big, and every horror movie was, hey, how can I gross you out by removing... Hostile. When it became, I am not trying to make a suspenseful environment for you to be a part of. Instead, it became, what gross special effect can I show you? That is cheap filmmaking.
There was one thing that Saw did that fucking terrified me. And my buddy Steve's favorite movies are all serial killer movies and movies like Saw and stuff. And I don't know which Saw it is. But he really wanted to show me this one particular Saw, and I was just like, all right, the fuck ever. Just get it over with. Yeah. And Yeah, he throws it in my DVD player, knowing that I have a phobia of syringes.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
And the girl from Becker gets tossed in the fucking pit.
I'm about to cringe right now just thinking about that.
And my immediate reaction was just... And he busted out laughing. So that was the whole reason he wanted to show me that movie.
Yeah,
that one scene.
I don't have...
I was fucking done with that movie.
I do not have a syringe or like getting a shot phobia, but yeah, that's one of those where just like your skin crawls just thinking about it.
Yeah.
All right, well, I think that's going to be about it for our top 5 favorite horror films. If you like our horror theme, actually check us out, all the stuff we have going on this week. This has been our Halloween podcast, but we did a lot of Halloween Let's Plays that were horror-centric. We did Alien Isolation.
I was gonna say, one of them was surprisingly Alien, but
you got an authentic Ron go, oh! That was in there.
And in my defense, I did not say we have to do Alien because it's my number 1 favorite. That game accomplishes everything that movie accomplishes. It sets the mood, tone, atmosphere, and the only sounds you hear is the fucking snarling and then creaking and popping of the ship.
Yeah.
Like, it did everything that my favorite horror movies do for me, not just because it was Alien.
Yeah, and we did a Black Ops zombie map for a vid, and what was the third? Oh, Walking Dead Telltale Season 2, we did the first part of that.
We did the Walking Dead Telltale, just because the way those games are set up is putting you in the driver's seat of very creepy, scary situations. Suspenseful situations. Yeah. And then the Black Ops Zombies was Call of the Dead. And that was just a fun tribute to Halloween in general because it's George R. R. Martin. It's George A. Romero.
Everybody dies. It's George R. R. Martin.
Yeah, exactly. But George A. Romero, and then the voice cast for it was Sarah Michelle Gellar, Michael Rooker, England, and Danny Trejo. So we just thought, like, you can't do any horror movie or horror themed Let's Play without throwing in some Call of Duty, Call of the Dead map. So
yeah, it was a lot of fun. Yeah, we have everything thrown up onto the YouTube channel. Just search for Expletives, like and subscribe. We are on social media at TWBE Podcast on Twitter and Facebook.com/TWBE Podcast. If you happen to find us through iTunes or Stitcher, give us a review. We would really appreciate it. And this is going to be a wrap for our first, this is our top 5 horror. We are planning at the end of the year, maybe beginning of January, to do a top 5 of 2015 movies and TV shows. So we, probably going to, we're going to probably argue more in that one.
It's going to be hard this year.
Nothing has blown my mind to the point where I know it's number 1, but there's a lot.
It's going to be Mad Max 5 times.
I think there's a lot that I really, really like, just for different reasons. So it's going to be, like you said, hard to distinguish. But yeah, we appreciate you guys checking us out, and have a happy Halloween.